Beyond the buzzer, inside the game, this is Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
And away we go. Glad you're here with us. You made it through the weekend. Sports IQ with Larry Smith and producer Tony, editor Josh. Hopefully you had a great weekend. Man, we had a great time. What a great game. It's always good to just sit down and just watch football. Watch the ads. Watch halftime like I always do. I don't get into it. I don't know. I watched Paul McCartney. I watched the Rolling Stones. I was there live for the Rolling Stones. They were great. Bad Bunny, don't know his music, don't know what he said. It was pretty cool. So we'll leave it at that. Hey, great show coming up. D. Orlando Ledbetter with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. He's a longtime Falcons beat writer. He's going to join us as we begin to look toward the NFL 2026 season now that 2025 is in the books after the big game last night. We'll talk with him in just a couple of minutes here about what's ahead in Atlanta. Not just a new head coach, but an entirely new front office. Matt Ryan is leading the way. He's got his new GM. He's got a new head coach. And what's happening now for the Falcons? They try to stop this skid string of losing seasons. And just a bit, we try to do an interview from time to time that's just outside the fray, but tied to sports. And just a really great guest coming up. Grania Owen is joining us. A great story talking about curing kids' cancer. Her son was a big sports fan, diagnosed at 5. Unfortunately, died at age 9. But what they are doing to turn tragedy into triumph has just been something special. And so we think that's worth your time to stick around for that. All right, let's do some headlines, shall we? Seahawks and Sam Darnold putting an exclamation point on their reclamation season with that thorough 29-13 domination of New England in Super Bowl 60. Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker picked up 135 yards on the ground. The Seattle defense sacking Drake May 3 times in the first half, picked him off twice in the second half, including a pick 6 to make the score 29-7. It was really pretty late in the fourth quarter. Darnold finishing just a pedestrian at 29-38 for 202 yards. But the best thing is he did not turn the ball over at all, not in the Super Bowl and not in the NFC playoffs. Walker becomes the first running back to win MVP since Denver's Terrell Davis got the award in 1998, 28 years ago. Great story there. We'll talk more about the game in just a bit. Some other news this past weekend. North Carolina getting the biggest win of their season, rallying from 13 down to beat Duke 71-68 Saturday on a Seth Trimble corner 3 with 0.4 seconds left in the contest. Some conversation later also about some Duke assistants getting punched in the melee as the students stormed the court. Hopefully, again, that's not the case. But again, we'll get into some of that stuff later in terms of some bad behavior by teams these past few days. Michigan State breaking a 2-game slide by beating number 5 Illinois 85-82 in overtime on Saturday. Jeremy Fears, 26 points, 15 assists to lead the way for Sparty. In fact, Fears becomes the first Big Ten guard ever to have 25 points and 15 assists in a game. Impressive for him. A college football. Look out for the Bison. North Dakota State has finalized an agreement to join the Mountain West Conference for football-only membership beginning this upcoming season here in 2026. Look, the Bison have dominated the FCS level for the past 15-plus years with 10 national championships, so they'll now move up to the FBS level. The move, by the way, involves a total cost of nearly $17 million in fees. At the Olympics, Austrian snowboarder Benjamin Karl making history by becoming the oldest person to win a gold medal in Winter Olympic history. He took the gold in the parallel giant slalom. The 40-year-old Austrian also won this event in the last Winter Olympics. Team USA off to a good start with 2 gold medals, but a very sad ending for 41-year-old Lindsey Vonn, the 3-time medal winner, crashing hard in her first run on the giant slalom, suffered a fractured leg in the process. She had to be airlifted off the mountain, went on to surgery later in the day, and effectively ending her 2026 games in the process. But we salute Lindsey Vonn. What an effort to come out with that rebuilt right knee and then the torn ACL in the other knee, and then still gave it a go, but could not finish. Hey, let's begin to talk football 2026 right now. Dear Orlando Ledbetter joining us once again. He is the veteran Falcons beat writer for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. D-Led, how are you, man?
Hey, I'm doing great, Larry. Thanks for having me on the show today.
Absolutely. Listen, lots going on there in Atlanta. First off, I got to start with the end of the season. I heard from so many Falcons fans lamenting the season-ending 4-game win streak that actually tied for the division championship, which normally would be a good thing, right? But Falcons fans weren't happy about the 4-game win streak at the end of the year.
Yeah, no doubt about it, because then it left them, thirsty for the playoffs and what could have been had they performed at that same level in some of their other games against the Jets and the Dolphins and the both Panther games. So yeah, that was kind of a bittersweet ending to the season for the Falcon fans.
Absolutely. So the season ends. Obviously, most of the 10 teams that fired their head coaches only fired their head coaches. But Arthur Blank there cleaning house, the whole front office, all new guys coming in. Matt Ryan now coming in, calling the shots. I'm a huge fan of Matt Ryan's. You know him much better than I do. He was an outstanding football player, very cerebral. I mean, put his work in, as well as I do, never took a day off from the starting training camp to the end of the season. How do you think he will be as an executive?
Yeah, I think Matt is a quick learner. A lot of people that work with him said, told us like, if he doesn't know something, he'll figure it out. Surround himself with people that will help him turn the franchise around. They believe he's going to be a nice fit in this role as president of football. And, he has the acumen to, learn the things he doesn't know. He's never been in the front office before. And, he'll put in the work, which he did for 14 years as the quarterback. So a lot of people are believing this is a new future for the Falcons with Matt Ryan at the helm.
I think that he can be that type in lines with an Ozzie Newsome, with a John Elway, with a John Lynch, in terms of somebody who had an outstanding career and did make the transition to the front office. I do think, like I said, I remember talking to him back in the day, right before his MVP season, and he said, when camp starts, it's every single day. Everyone else gets one day off a week during the season. He still would come in 5:45 in the morning to, get his workout in, to throw, film, all the work that he did. So yeah, I think there's the work ethic there. There's no question at all.
Yeah, no question about it. There'll be things to learn. Salary. He was a communication major, so he wasn't a business guy. So he's going to need people to figure out the salary cap, and you have to learn the ins and outs of free agency, which are things that trip this franchise up. They got caught for tampering last, in the free agency where they got Kirk Cousins. So there are rules to follow, and he's got to have people around him to put the guardrails up to let him know what's permissible. And so forth. So, I certainly think that and Ian Cunningham, the new general manager, he comes from the Bears, trained by Ozzie Newsome, so he knows a lot of this stuff, and I'm sure he'll be sharing his knowledge with Matt Ryan.
Yeah, how important was it? I mean, obviously, Ian is somebody that had been in the conversation to be a GM before, and this, the Falcons' first one to pull the trigger. How important was it for the Falcons to get him in particular in this role with somebody like Matt Ryan as the president of operations?
Yeah, you needed someone with experience, someone who's a great talent evaluator, and someone that is not going to be guessing in this position. He was taught by Ozzie Newsome, who's one of the best talent evaluators in the game. He spent time with Howie Roseman, who's built an incredible roster in Philly, and a couple Super Bowl wins, and then went to help Ryan Poles in Chicago, and him and Ryan have been credited with getting the Bears turned around and winning the North and getting them back to the playoffs this year. So, wonderful resume. Now, can you do it when you slide over to the head seat?
Yeah. Now it's all on him. We're talking with the dear Ledbetter, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, about the Atlanta Falcons as we get into the NFL offseason coming up here at the draft. Hard to believe it's just a couple of months away. The new head coach coming in, Kevin Stefanski, was one that some people were puzzled. He, didn't have success in Cleveland, which, let's be fair, nobody ever does. What was it about Kevin Stefanski that you think drew Matt Ryan to pull the trigger and make him the Falcons' next head coach?
Yeah, there's some shared history being from Philadelphia. So, there's some comfortable issues there, comfort issues. And I think they put a lot of stock in the fact that he won 2 years in Cleveland, went to the playoffs twice with Baker Mayfield, and then 1 year he went with five different quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
That was a Joe Flacco, Jameis Winston DTR year. And so he's able to put together game plans and put together attacks in the rugged AFC North to get the Cleveland Browns to the playoffs twice. Now, they didn't give him credit for the team going to get Deshaun Watson and the quarterback position falling apart.
Yeah.
So they apparently put that on the front office, and then maybe looked at the defense in Cleveland, and they played well under Jim Schwartz. With Myles Garrett, even though they weren't going to be able to win a lot of games, the defense showed up to play and posted some credible wins over Pittsburgh and the Bengals throughout his time there in Cleveland.
Yeah, that's all that is fair. One thing about Matt Ryan, in terms of the quarterback position with the Falcons, it would appear that Michael Penix Jr. Is the future, the first-round pick in 2024, but a history of injuries. 4 seasons with injuries when he was in college. Just didn't finish this season because of an injury. Matt Ryan was interesting. He said that it's not definite that Penix is the future quarterback for the Falcons. Could they consider maybe keeping Kirk Cousins around? When they go shopping for a new quarterback? What are you reading right now in the tea leaves with that?
Yeah, before that comment, we were kind of resigned to the fact that they would cut Kurt, they take the hit, and try to find a backup to hold it down while Michael Penix is coming back from surgery. But when they were so definitive and not naming him the starter and saying, "Hey, we're not the coach, we don't know who's going to play," then you're back and play with the fact that Kirk Cousins and Kevin Stefanski have played together before. There's a comfort level between those two. I think Kurt had one of his best seasons in Minnesota with Stefanski as a coordinator, helped him to get the Cleveland job. So now we have to kind of reassess here in this kind of dead period, heading up to the new league year, whether they're going to try to keep Kurt and as an insurance policy, or open it up and let him and Kurt compete. Him and Michael compete for the starting job, which is what some people wanted to see last year.
Mm-hmm.
One cautionary tale is that the book on Kurt around the league is he starts the season well, but he doesn't finish them well. So maybe you can do that with Kurt, have him start the season, and then as Michael gets his knee back together, then have him ready to go if he's developed enough to please Coach Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. I hadn't thought about that. I want to talk about the Falcons losing streak. And I remember back when the Falcons were building Mercedes-Benz Stadium and clearing the land there in downtown Atlanta, not, right next door to the Georgia Dome. But there was controversy in terms of they had to displace 2 churches and they were well compensated, et cetera. But there was always the wives' tale. Well, they're not going to win. They tore down the churches. It's kind of come to pass. They had the 110-win season in the year 1 at Mercedes-Benz, went to the playoffs, and have had losing seasons every year since. Has that come up now as conversation that maybe the Falcons may be cursed because of that?
That's more city lore. We're having stories about it, but as you talk to fans that see them lose in incredible ways week after week, 8 straight losing seasons. They're looking for reasons as to why that is the case. And from time to time, the churches do come up. One of them was the church that was, where Morehouse was founded by the former enslaved people that founded the church. So, that should have been hallowed ground. They could have moved it the other way. But that's definitely something that about the history of Atlanta and that stadium. They did get compensated well, but some things you kind of probably want to leave alone.
Yeah. I wonder if it was still a conversation, because that's one thing that I thought about. There's no question. Hey, I've got about a minute left right now. The Falcons, everything is new right now. Arthur Blank, is this the formula? Has he put the winning formula together to get that elusive Super Bowl ring? Or is it probably still too early to tell?
Yeah, it's too early to tell you. I got young defenders. Looks like you got a foundational defense over there with James Pierce Jr. and Jalen Walker. Xavier Watts at safety. You got a veteran safety, Jesse Bates back there. So you can look over there and say, okay, progress is being made. All right. And then you look on offense and you're like, hey, they got a running back. He's pretty good. Bijan Robinson.
Yeah.
The line's solid. But the key position is the quarterback. And he doesn't have a difficult job. It's get the ball to Bijan and keep him healthy. And then you should be able to throw play action off of that to Drake London. You need some more receivers. You got to decide if you're going to keep Kyle Pitts in the mix. So it's not like the people who were fired, Terry Fontenot and Raheem Morris, not like they did not leave the cupboard bare. There's enough there to build on and add on to, and possibly lead the Falcons back into the playoffs and stop this 8-year losing streak, which is, tied for franchise record.
Oh, which is just, reminds you back in the old days in the 70s and 80s with Rankin Smith as the owner and all that. We won't go back there. But 2026 is the year. Dear Orlando, listen, man, we know that you've got a lot going on. We really appreciate your time. Man, try to get a breather here in the off season wherever you can, and we'll call on you very soon.
All right. Thank you so much, Larry. And then the Falcon fans also have to look forward to new uniforms this year. Maybe that'll do the trick.
There we go. Just in time for Christmas 2026. Something new to buy for the closet.
All right.
All right. Appreciate that. New uniforms, new coach, new front office. It's all fresh there in Atlanta. The Orlando Ledbetter. Once again, he's the Falcons beat writer for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Always appreciate his time here on the Sports IQ. We've got more to come after this.
You're listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Welcome back here. Some more notes from the Super Bowl as we wrap up Super Bowl 60. By the way, I thought the pregame stuff was really cool with all the former Super Bowl MVPs coming out in the matching Letterman jackets. And I don't know if you saw after the game, they had the Letterman jackets on the champion Seahawks. And I'm like, what great marketing. Those things are pretty cool. That's not really my thing, but would I think about buying one of those? Absolutely. So marketing-wise, again, chef's kiss. You guys really knocked it out of the park. It's pretty cool. Okay, a few notes. Sam Darnold becoming the first quarterback from the 2018 draft class to win a Super Bowl game. Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, all part of that class in 2018, and they've yet to get there. Darnold also becoming the first USC quarterback to win a Super Bowl. That just seems crazy. And the first QB since Eli Manning back in 2007 to lead the league in turnovers during the regular season and then lead his team to a Super Bowl title. So again, it's not always what you do during the season. It's what you do in the end. And Sam Darnold now etching his name into history with right alongside so few quarterbacks through the years. Josh Myers stamping himself in the record books with 5 made field goals at a Super Bowl. Seahawks head coach Mike Macdonald becoming the first head coach to win a Super Bowl as his team's defensive play caller. How about that? And Julian Love becoming the first Notre Dame alum since Nick Buoniconti back in 1973 to pick off a pass in the Super Bowl. Pretty cool. Patriots, we talk about all their championships. They have become the team with the most Super Bowl losses. That was their 6th. And now the question here in the offseason is, could the Seahawks be sold? There was some talk here in recent weeks, although, some sources, tried to downplay it and say, oh, no, that's not the case, that the team would be sold. Now, the Seattle Seahawks were owned by Microsoft co-founder and billionaire Paul Allen, who passed away several years ago. And it was his wish, never married, never had any kids, that this team, as well as the NBA Portland Trail Blazers, be sold and the money being given to charity. So, the Blazers, it appears, is closer to being sold. The Seahawks, not so much. But listen, they may go on the block here this offseason, and what a time to do it. You can buy your own Super Bowl champion. the Seattle Seahawks right there, which would be pretty cool. We'll see what happens there. And again, how many billions would that draw? Off the field, we were just talking earlier, a moment ago, with dear Orlando Ledbetter. Then over the weekend as well, the Atlanta linebacker, James Pierce Jr., who had 10 and a half sacks as a rookie here in 2025, arrested, and he's been since released in Miami on 5 felonies for an incident involving a WNBA player, Rickea Jackson, including the reports now this morning on ESPN, even ramming his vehicle into one driven by her, eluding police, evading arrest, all that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, there were already some questions about his character coming into the NFL. It actually hurt his draft status last year. He dropped several spots in the first round. Clearly, he's a talent, but there's some off-field stuff now he's got to deal with. No question about that. Want to get back to the college basketball stuff we talked about just a moment ago. North Carolina, again, in Chapel Hill, the fans storming the court. Well, UNC has been fined $50,000 for doing that. It's a no-no because of the chance of injury. It's an insurance liability. They've been fined for that. Oklahoma State also fined $50,000, not for storming the court, but for anti-Mormon chants as the Cowboys upset BYU a few days ago in Big 12 play. So students behaving badly, costing the university. It's really unfortunate. One baseball note, we saw that they're getting ready here. It's February, getting ready to start spring training. The Pirates signing former Braves slugger Marcell Ozuna to a one-year deal for $12 million. Ozuna is now 35 years old, going to Pittsburgh, which hit only 117 homers in all of last year, so fewer than one per game in 2025. So obviously they were last in home runs. They want to try to shore that up and see if they can get a little more punch, as we talked about again. Paul Skeens, how many times did he just throw a gem and come up with a loss because you had no run support? So Pittsburgh trying to find ways to address that. Okay, stay with us. Great conversation up next with Granier Owen and producer Tony. Next on the Sports IQ.
You're locked in to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Okay, let's continue now. A great conversation next with producer Tony.
Well, Larry, thanks so much. And this next interview is really kind of dear to my heart. I met this next guest, must have been a little over 20 years ago. Now it's been a while. We did a story when I was at Fox Sports South about an amazing young little boy who unfortunately had developed cancer and had passed away from that cancer. But what came out of it has been some good. If you can ever find good in anything, we found some good to come out of this. Grania Owen is the founder of Curing Kids Cancer. Grania, thank you so much for joining us. And I know it's been a while since we last chatted, but it is good to see you again and good to talk about this charity that you started and all the amazing work that you've done over the last 20 years.
Well, thank you so much, Tony. The more people who hear about what we're doing, the better. So thank you for giving us this opportunity to talk about what we do. And, I just feel terribly blessed to have been able to, I now feel that this was what I was always meant to do, to raise money for other kids who have cancer. So I feel very blessed to be enabled to do it.
Give our listeners some of the background and tell us about your amazing son, Killian. I love the story we did with him 20 years ago and that wall that they built at his elementary school to honor him. Give us some of that background so that the people know the story behind this.
Okay, well, gosh, where to start? So he was 5 years old and got off the school bus and was crying. And the driver, who was very sweet, said to me, "It's not like Killian. He's complaining of a stomach ache." Well, it turned out to be leukemia. And so we embarked on a journey that I never thought we would have to. That's, when a child gets cancer, it's like, no, that happens in movies and on television, but it doesn't happen to me, And we have 4 boys. So Killian was a twin, and we have one older son and one younger son. So the twins were in the middle. And like I said, he was only 5 years old. And I was like, no, this can't be right. But unfortunately, it was. We embarked on a 3.5-year process of treatment for leukemia, which it was back then. And we got to within 6 months of finishing his treatment, and he relapsed. And that was when his chances of survival dropped from sort of 80 to 90% down to about 30 to 40%, because he had to have a bone marrow transplant, which, if anybody's ever seen or gone through that, it's horrible. Radiation, and, I mean, it's just a dreadful thing to put a child through. And he was in isolation because you're not allowed to be around other people. And, I've never played so many video games and lost so many video games in my life. But yes, discovered how bad I was at that. And what he went through was truly devastating for me to watch. But I had to smile and be there for him because he was being so brave. And anyway, we got to the end of the bone marrow transplant process, and they say 100 days post-transplant is when it's considered a success. We got to 90 days post-transplant, and on a regular routine blood test, it came back that the leukemia had returned. And at that point, the doctor called us into a room, and I could see his hands were like shaking. And I thought, this is not good. And he said, we're out of options. It's returned. We can't give him any more chemo or radiation, and we don't have any other treatments. And he said, I think you should go and make some memories, which was the hardest thing we have ever done in our lives, because we told the boys that we were going to celebrate that he had got through his bone marrow transplant, when in actual fact we knew he was dying, and that this was probably going to be our last trip as a family. So we had to smile, and we wanted the boys to have some lovely, happy memories, and so that's what we did. But while we were there, I couldn't give up, and I was doing some research into anything that could help. And I came across an article which talked about a brand new type of treatment called a targeted therapy. Now, targeted therapies are still around today, but this was the first one ever developed for children with leukemia, and it was called BL22. It didn't even have a name at that point. And the doctors who were working on it were at the National Cancer Institute, and one of them had a very Irish name. And I thought, I wonder. So I went to a friend of ours who was a professor at Trinity College Dublin in microbiology, and I said to him, look, I know this is a 1,000,000 to 1 shot, but do you know this doctor? And he said, Grania, not only do I know him, he used to be one of my students. Miracle, I thought. So I was able to contact him. He put me in touch with the pediatric oncologist who was developing this treatment and had been trying to get it into a clinical trial for like 3.5 years. And Killian turned out to be the perfect candidate. So he had to get a special permission from the FDA, which, we thought, oh no, here we go. But within a week, he managed to get a special permission. We flew up to the National Cancer Institute, and they tried the experimental drug on Killian. He was in the ICU for this. There were about 40 doctors all around him, and nurses and everybody, because it was the first time they'd ever tried this drug on a child. And it worked to a certain extent. Unfortunately, because the FDA was involved and had given special permission, he would have needed twice the dose that they were able to give him for it to really be effective for Killian. However, the doctor took us to one side and said, there's a second generation of this drug in the lab, and we've tested it on Killian's cancer cells, and it would be 11 times more effective than this one. And we said, great, give it to him. And he said, I can't. I don't have the money to get it out of the lab and into treatment. And at that point, I remember thinking, why on earth is he telling us about something that could save Killian's life, but we can't have it? And he said to this day, he doesn't really know. I still keep in touch with him. He's actually one of our doctors on our medical advisory board. He's the chairman. And he said, I don't know why I told you that. I would never normally tell a family about something they couldn't have. But you see, that was what made me decide I had to raise money. So I feel like that was a God thing. I knew with everything that I believed in that is what I was supposed to do. So unfortunately for Killian, it was not going to work because he couldn't have it. And so we had to take him home and we lost him. A year later, we were coming up to his first anniversary, and that year was like a complete blur. And I was sitting with the other three boys saying, I know we don't want it to have been a year, but Killian is happy. He's healthy. He's a little angel and he's looking after us. And I know it's not what we wanted, but we have to be happy for him. And I suddenly thought, if I believe what I'm telling my children, and I did believe it, then I need to do something because that's what Killian would have wanted. I need to get up off my behind and go and find out more about this drug that's stuck in the lab and see if it can help save other children, because I didn't want anybody else to have to go through what we were going through. So that was 2004. And in 2005, we became Curing Kids Cancer. We were registered as a 501c3 because I decided that's what I had to do. And since then, we have raised over $34 million. So obviously,
That
it
is
was what I was meant to do.
that was the amazing part. That is such a sad story, but how you've turned it into something positive for so many people out there. What does the charity do now? How are you raising money? I noticed on the website there are you've got 6 or 8 different events listed. You've got a run in New York. You've got a fireman thing happening in Boston. You got this. There's a lot. You've got to be pretty busy, raising money with all these events going on.
Oh, it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week now. There are still only 7 of us because I don't want to spend the money we raise on, big staffs and lots of, advertising or anything like that. So, yes, we are very, very busy and stretched to the limit all the time. But it's wonderful that we were able to give away $2.1 million in December for funding research, which last year was a hard year with everybody being very cautious about spending money, which, I understand completely. And we said we would love to be able to give away 2 million, and we ended up giving away 2.1 million. So yeah,
That's amazing.
we have a college football awareness campaign in September where we get college football teams to play one of their home games with wearing our helmet stickers and wristbands, and the coach wears our T-shirt and a gold whistle for childhood cancer, just to raise awareness. We don't raise money with that, but it's great to get the word out there about what we're doing. We also have Coaches Curing Kids Cancer, which aims at youth sports teams at the end of the season. Instead of buying the traditional gift card, you give the money to us and you choose a gift from us. So it's a T-shirt with our logo that says Coaches Curing Kids Cancer, or a hat or a whistle, whatever you choose. And we get the money and you get a gift for your coach. So that works out really well. We have worked in the past with NASCAR with Robbie Gordon, as you're probably aware.
Absolutely.
Yes. So that was lovely for Killian because Robbie came to meet him when Killian was sick, because Clay, my husband, was working with Richard Childress at the time, and Robbie was one of his drivers. And that was what led to the climbing wall, actually, because, Robbie came when we opened the climbing wall for Killian in memory of Killian. And, we would love to work with them again. We recently had a wonderful $100,000 donation from Rick Hendricks, which I was totally blown away by. He's such a generous man, and he's actually a cancer survivor himself, so he gets it. We have a pro golfer called Matt Naismith, and his wife Abigail used to work for me, so he wears our logo on his golf bag and everything. And we also have these amazing events called fire truck pulls. Now, this is not a tractor pull, this is pulling fire trucks. And we have 2 fire trucks that we borrow. The fire department comes along, they always have a team, but we get teams to pull the fire trucks over 50 feet. And the team that pulls it the fastest over that distance wins. But we also have different prizes for different things. So if they raise more money than anybody else, or if they dress up as the child, each one represents a child. I should have said that. So a child either in treatment or a survivor, or they can pull in memory of a child who has cancer. And so the children love it because they come out to watch their team pulling for them. And also we make them dress up in the child's favorite thing. So last year we had a herd of cows. We had bunny rabbits, we had ballet dancers, we had a Bluey team from TV. And it's just the most fun event. And we had about 500 people turn out. The children just absolutely love it because it's a normal, happy, joyful day for them, which doesn't happen very often in the life of a child with cancer. And we raise money. Each team raises money for their child and for their truck pull, and it's a beautiful event. And we also have lots of teams of medical students who run 5Ks for us, which I think is probably what you were referring to with all the different locations.
Yeah.
We have 4 fire truck pulls now. And we also have several 5K runs with we call them Future Leaders in Medicine. And they organize their own 5K and raise money for us that way too. And we have golf tournaments. We've got like 4 golf tournaments now. So yes, we are very, very busy. It makes me tired just thinking about it, actually.
I was going to say, you're exhausted and so you haven't left the chair yet, but just having all that to do. It's like, shoo, I'm exhausted for you. Do you have any idea, has the charity kept track of how many children you've been able to help over the course of running this charity?
Well, that involves me explaining about something that we've been able to fund that we are extremely proud of, and that is called CAR T-cell therapy. CAR T-cell therapy. And the CAR stands for chimeric antigen receptors. But what it is they take the child's own T-cells, which they can remove, and they genetically re-engineer them in the lab so that they recognize the proteins that are only on the outside of their cancer cells. They put those altered cells back into the child, and they then their own immune system fights their cancer. And This is what is known as immunotherapy, which I'm sure you've heard of. But this was the very first time that it was used was for leukemia. And it was based on the targeted therapy that Killian pioneered back when he was so sick. And they developed it into CAR T-cell therapy. So we are very proud of the fact that it has a 97% success rate getting children with leukemia back into remission. And it only costs about $25,000 per child per treatment. And that's the cost of altering the cells and everything. And we have pioneered that with Children's Hospital of Philadelphia with a doctor called Dr. Grupp. And he was the first one to treat a child with leukemia with this type of treatment. And she is now going to university. So we helped to fund that and are still helping to fund that. And the effect it has had is that leukemia is no longer the leading cause of death for children with cancer because the survival rate has gone up because of this particular treatment. And it's probably saved thousands of lives at this point, because it's not just at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia that they can do it anymore. It's all around the country. And we're trying to help as much of that as possible. And it just blows me away. I can't even kind of imagine how those families must feel. Because I said, if I could just save the life of one child when I started raising money, then I would be so happy. So knowing that hundreds of children are now walking around free of cancer because of what we've been able to do that's why I feel so blessed, because you don't get the opportunity to save a child's life every day, but I do.
That is amazing. That is an amazing, just the way you've taken that on and helping all these kids is just, I mean, you'll excuse me. It's just, it's special what you're doing.
My boys love it because it all started with their brother. And I know so many things have happened over the last 20 years, 21 years that shouldn't, couldn't, wouldn't have happened if we didn't have a little guardian angel up there looking after us. I call them godcidences because I don't believe in coincidences anymore.
Right.
And we've had more than our fair share of godcidences along the way. So I know that's our little angel looking after us.
Anybody listening on the podcast, on the radio show, how can they get involved, Grania, if they want to help out, if they want to donate to the charity? What can they do?
Absolutely. Well, our website is curingkidscancer.org, O-R-G. And if they go to the website, they can see all of the events that we have, our golf tournaments, our fire truck pulls, our 5Ks. One of the most exciting things we're working on right now is a Hearts of Gold Gala, which is going to be in Columbia, South Carolina on April the 18th. And you'll see it on the website. And we're doing a big Hollywood theme because we feel like our children that we help, the stars, they're the celebrities, they're the ones that we are doing all this for. And so it's going to have a lovely gold theme. And of course, gold is the color for childhood cancer.
Right.
And if anybody would like to sponsor or buy tickets or, donate money towards the cost of putting on this event, we would love that. So yes, go to the website, curingkidscancer.org.
Grania Owen, thank you so much for sharing this story with us. We will get you back on in the fall. We'll have to talk about some of the teams that you're dealing with and some of the special events that are coming up when we get towards college football, and have you back on the show again and talk some more about this topic. And thank you for all that you do and have done to help kids.
I couldn't not do it, Tony. It's right here. I'm convicted about this. This is what Killian was just lent to us for a little time, and it's breaks my heart that we only had 9 years with him, but he has helped so many other children, and I just feel very blessed to do what I do. And thank you for letting me talk about it.
Well, thank you for sharing your story. We really hope that the folks out there will take this to heart and help other children, so that other parents don't have to go through what you went through with Killian. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much. We are going to take a quick break here on the Sports IQ, but we'll be right back with more right after this.
Welcome back here to the show, talking Super Bowl 60, putting a bow on this with producer Tony. Tony, you and I both sat down this morning to a plate of crow because neither one of us gave much credit to Sam Darnold being able to lead a team to a time. We both picked the Seahawks to win, but because of their defense.
Yeah, I mean, when he signed with Seattle, we had it on the show. I said, good luck to you. I don't see where you're going to get any better having him over Geno Smith. Ooh, was I wrong? Because he had a fabulous season. Yeah, he led the league in turnovers. They still went 13-4 in the regular season. Yeah. He still led them to a Super Bowl championship. Was he, all that in a bag of chips last night? No, but he secured the football. He didn't take sacks. He moved around in the pocket, hit receivers when he had to, kept the ball on the ground, kept it away from the New England Patriots, and he's a Super Bowl champion. Hats off to him. First one of that 2018 class. Got to give it to him.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. And I wonder, sports, we are a monkey see, monkey do kind of society when it comes to sports, right? I mean, whatever they did to win, we got to do the same thing. And so I wonder now if you've got, for a long time we wanted to get, everyone be like Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs and get your franchise quarterback and get your tight end, all this. Well, I wonder if this will kind of change the thinking where you don't have to have that guy you're making $50 million. You pay your quarterback, if you can pay him, find a guy you like who can get it done for you at $30 million and invest that money into your defense instead.
Hey, the bottom line, Larry, is defense still wins championships in the NFL.
Yeah.
The offense may be selling all the tickets. The offense may be helping the ratings people out at all the networks and at ESPN. But the bottom line is you still got to play great defense to win championships. What are the teams that we remember, being dynasties all about mostly? Steelers, the Steel Curtain.
Yeah.
All of those defensive teams that won, the Ravens that year where nobody could score on them. Everybody remembers that team.
The Bears in 85. Yeah.
Bears in 85, right. The start of the 46 defense and pressuring quarterbacks unbelievably. Defense will win you titles. Look at that Bears offense. They had Walter Payton. Jim McMahon was okay as quarterback. Do you remember any of the Bears wideouts from that year?
Yeah. Well, I'm a Bear fan, so I do, but your point is valid. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, not many people would, but they remember all the names on that defense. They sure remember Singleton and Hampton and Wilbur Marshall and Fensick and all of those guys. They remember that defense, boy.
Yeah. Doug Plank and Dave Duerson, all those guys. Otis Wilson. So, they were Wilbur Marshall. They were outstanding. You're exactly right. And I think, too, let's give credit to the NFL, to Santa Clara, to the 49ers, the San Francisco Bay Area, putting on a great show. The optics were outstanding. I can't do 6 hours of pregame. I'm sorry, I can't. I tune in about 45 minutes out, maybe, just to begin to kind of see what's going on once the fans are there. But I thought again, I mentioned earlier, the MVP's there. It's the 60th year of the Super Bowl. So there's enough fanfare, I think, to get me excited and worked up. I heard some complaints about, people don't like halftime, complaints about Charlie Puth doing the national anthem, as someone said, he's not getting me excited for the game. But he's fine. It was fine.
He was fine. It was a good rendition of the national anthem.
Yeah.
He did his job. And, again, we know the audience there. You and I were talking about this before, and we know the audience the NFL's looking for.
Yeah.
They're looking for a very diverse audience. They're looking to expand their reach and reach out to even more people.
Yeah.
They know their core audience is going to be there.
Yeah.
They're trying to bring in the fringe people who they can get excited about the NFL. And they did a fabulous job. It was a great show. Was it the most exciting game in the world? No, but credit to the Seattle defense because they, kind of grabbed the Patriot offense, shoved it in the back of the room and said, you're not coming out to play today. Sorry. No fun for you.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, I really think it's, to your point, the NFL is a global entity. The Super Bowl is its crown jewel. And we're already seeing where they're looking to have maybe an international game, one per week. I mean, looking not just to have whatever 5, 6, or 8, but they have double digits, 12, 15, 16 games, and expanding it into new markets, going into Australia, going to new countries. And so that's the point of this. If you are caught up in who's performing at halftime, whatever, you're missing the point because chances are the NFL, they're not marketing for you. They're not marketing for me or Tony or for you. We're not in the age group. We're not the group they're looking for. But I mentioned before that a young woman I know, 29 years old and from rural Indiana and white woman, and she knows all his songs and all that. So, and here's the bottom line. We saw some reports today, 135 million watching, and 6 million watching the alternate show, which is kind of what we thought would be. Okay, if you want, and here's the thing, in America, the great thing is we have choices. If you don't want to watch the game, don't watch. If you don't want to watch halftime, don't watch. It's okay. Life goes on. The sun came up this morning. It's okay.
Exactly. It wasn't the greatest deal in the world. If you don't want to watch, if you don't want to be a part of it, offends you somehow, don't watch. Guess what? The NFL ain't going to miss you.
No.
They still had their numbers.
No.
They still got what they wanted.
Yeah, they did. And guess what? They'll do it again next year, too. So I know they set a record last year with Kendrick Lamar. They'll set a record this year, looks like, with Bad Bunny, and they'll try to do it again next year. with or without you. It's a global audience. So it just is what it is. All right. So hopefully that helps ease your pain if you're suffering today. So hang in there. There are worse things to worry about. Get the ice off your driveway. All right. Moment of All is coming up next.
Fans of big sports radio and sports spectacular podcasts have a new home on the Chief Sports Network. Find your favorite programs and content all in one place by downloading the Chief Sports app in your mobile device. Created in South Carolina, the Chief Sports Network is the home of an expanding network of live and podcast format programming. It is also the home of one of the leading national college football podcasts, JC and Morgan, hosted by ESPN's Mike Morgan and 24/7 Sports' JC Sherbert. Download the Chief Sports app for free and find all of your favorite programming under one easy umbrella. Thanks to all of our markets for your loyal support of Big Sports Radio and our Sports Spectacular podcast, and we look forward to connecting with you anywhere in the world on the Chief Sports app.
Okay, time now for a moment of all, and this one goes out to the late, great Satchel Paige, because this day, February 9th, was incredibly important to the great pitcher. It was on this date, February 9th, 1951, when Satchel Paige signed with the St. Louis Browns at age 46 after a long and storied career in the Negro Leagues. Exactly 20 years later, in 1971, he became the first former Negro League player to be elected into baseball's Hall of Fame. Satchel Paige, February 9th, special for two reasons in his lifetime. One of the all-time greats, and of course, again, he is in the Hall of Fame as a result of what he did on the field. And that's our moment of all. Thanks to our guest, dear Lando Ledbetter. Thanks as well to Granier Owen for joining us. We appreciate you being here as well. Let's make it a great Monday and do it again tomorrow here on the Sports IQ.
Thanks for listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith, Monday through Friday. Continue the conversation at Sports IQ LS. We'll see you next time.